Good morning. Whoops, sorry about the jiggle. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what coast you're on, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. There's been a couple things rolling around my noggin for a bit that I want to address. Not even sure if my noggin is making it into the video, but my noggin and my face aren't the important parts here. Just some stuff I've been rolling around, which are my personal observations and thoughts and opinions. And you can agree or disagree. If you agree, that's fine. If you disagree, then please do so politely. First, a lot of people call us a democracy. We are not a democracy. In truth, we are what is referred to as a democratic republic. We could also be called a constitution federal republic. What we have is we function as a representative democracy with a constitutional framework, and that constitution is supposed to be followed. If you see me glancing over here, this is where I have my notes. So many of you know that July 4th, 1776 was the Declaration of the Independence and the idea of us being a nation. On September 17th of 1787, that's when the Constitution was signed, and it established the framework of our government. And it wasn't until June 21st, 1788, that our Constitution was actually ratified. But that's all well and nice. Essentially, we've been around for almost 250 years as a nation. So, that's just to lay some groundwork. Now, since the founding of our nation, men, and this is not to say racist or anything, but the truth is that since the founding of our nation, it's been white men who've been in charge and who've always had all the rights. It wasn't until 1920 that women got the right to vote. Now, you'll notice that the woman's symbol is a bit smaller than the male symbol, because while they were granted the right to vote by amendment in 1920, it wasn't always that easy, and white men, and we'll stick with white men for now, in particular, still had much more power than white women. We'll get to people of color later on because they're part of our nation as well. But this is the truth. For the longest time, men had more rights than women. I mean, it wasn't until the Fair Housing Act in 1968 that women started to get a few more rights. But they still didn't have the same amount of rights as men. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until 1974 that a woman could actually open a bank account on her own and, have home ownership. None of that stuff was possible until 1974. That's just like 50 years ago. Okay, so the Republic had been around at that point in time for 200 years, and it took that long for women to not only have the right to vote, but also then to get maybe on equal economic footing by law as the white male counterparts. Now, I say by law because it's one thing to have a piece of paper, but we all live in the real world, and we know that while it looks good on paper, the practice and reality, women still have to struggle a lot to have the same rights and opportunities as men. As a matter of fact, right now, women over the age of 18, adult women in our country, are about 108 million. The number of the corresponding group of men in our country is 101 million. So the amount of women, adult women in our country, outnumber the adult men in our country, we'll just say 5%. It's really 4 to 6, but we'll just call it 5. Ironically, in Congress is 72% men and 28% women. This is 250 years into our republic when we're supposed to say, everybody's supposed to have equal opportunity, but we're being run by essentially minority of men in the population when there's a majority of women in the population. Because that's the way the game is still going. So I just want to point that out. Now, when you get to people of color, it wasn't until 1965 and the Federal Voting Rights Act that people of color, and that's our African American people in particular, were supposed to be guaranteed the same path to the voting booth as white people. But again, the reality was back then, and it still is today, except I think it's more a matter of economics today. Again, this is all my opinion. In 1965, they were supposed to have the same opportunities to the voting booth, but that didn't come around for a long time. The funny thing is, you'll notice the amount of rights that men, and white men in particular, have had hasn't changed. They haven't lost any of their rights. No, they've always maintained the rights they have always had. Just because someone, whether they're female or a person of color, has the same rights, it doesn't mean, sorry, I didn't make a person of color one, but it didn't take away rights from any of the men. None of the men had the same amount of rights. So I don't get what the big deal is. Just by granting other people the same rights, you have not lost your own rights. What I think the big complaint is that maybe the playing field is more level. And you have to work harder for your opportunities now. But that does not mean you've lost any of your rights at all. Granting people the same rights as you does not take away your rights. It doesn't take away your opportunity. But maybe you have to work a little harder now because, hey, we're in a competitive market, right? You want capitalism? That's what you got, man. So that's food for thought. And you want to go back to the 1920 women's right to vote. Even after that law was passed in 1920, Native Americans, the only true Americans born to our country, were still not allowed to vote when the women were given the right to vote in 1920. And then you got to the Fair Housing Act, which again was in the Equal Opportunity Credit Act of 1974, which was supposed to help women get houses and such without co-signers. However, we both know that while on paper we have given women and people of color and minorities all these rights on paper, the reality is a lot of them still don't have the same rights. I'll even take it a step further, and all you have to do is watch the news to see this is true. All the people with the big money, the system is rigged in their favor. Legally, financially, economically. So now it's becoming classism. And the more people are struggling at the bottom, the less opportunities they have to even jump up to grab that lower rung of the ladder and climb their way up. Again, these are just my opinions. So now the next one is I want to talk about everybody screaming that Christianity is under attack. Christianity has been on the decline, but it is not because of any attacks. And research has showed that things have leveled off since 2020. And yes, Christianity has lost some numbers, but not because it was under attack. One of the things about Christianity that I've always understood is God gave us free will. So when you are trying to impose your Christianity, your Christianity, impose your will on others, to me, that's a slap in the face of God. God gave us free will. No one can force you to go somewhere you don't want to go. God wants us to come to him of our own accord, because that's when he greets us with his open arms. And that's when he knows we belong to him. We need to go there and walk our own path. For all my Christian friends, particularly those on the right, who say you're under attack, you're not under attack. The problem is you've shot yourselves in the foot. And the more you try to push your brand of Christianity, no matter how far to the right it is or the center, the more you try to push your brand of Christianity onto people, the more you shoot yourselves in the foot. So that's that. So, people get their choice. There's Hinduism, there's Taoism, there's Judaism, there's Islam, there's Buddhism, Sikhism, Shinto in Japan, a lot of different religions in the world, but these are the major players. But again, none of these are actively attacking Christianity. They haven't all surrounded Christianity and say, oh, let's gang up on the Christians. No. What's happened with Christianity is it's been hijacked. And it's been hijacked politically. Here's why most people have left Christianity. They have switched to a religion that they feel more aligns with their spiritualness. Some of them have simply stopped believing in their childhood faith when they were Christians because they don't see a lot of its teachings being practiced. There's been a lot of political polarization about Christianity. A lot of it. And, it's like the old saying, God doesn't favor people, religions do that. Well, God doesn't favor politicians. People do that. Same kind of thing. A lot of people, interpret the Bible different ways, but the Christian church and the Catholic Church has had a lot of distrust and scandals and sexual abuse, and a lot of people who shout, oh, I'm Christian from the highest mountaintop. There's a lot of sex scandals. So you need to take care of your own house and look inward and reflect. The really ironic part of this is every major religion of the world, everyone has this one underlying principle. And it talks about kindness and faith and common good, meaning you're not in it for yourself. You're helping others. Christianity, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Islam, no one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. Hinduism, do not do to others what would cause pain if it was done to you. Buddhism, treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Every one of these religions has that guiding tenet of kindness and compassion and helping each other. That's their underlying thing. So for my people who think Christianity is under attack, just because someone wants to say happy holidays and recognize and respect other beliefs and faiths, and some people don't have any spiritual belief at all, and that's okay. You know why? Because that's their choice, as guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and guaranteed by God and the Bible. So saying happy holidays is not an attack on Christmas. It's recognizing what America is. And what America's strength has always been is all of us being able to live in this great melting pot and to take in the poor, the tired, and the hungry. Okay? And I get there are some bad ones out there. But like 75% of immigrants being rounded up, they're not hardened criminals. They're people that are working members of our society that contribute. They contribute financially without getting the gains that we do. They contribute to our economy by spending their money here. You want to get rid of the hardened criminals? Fine. But that's not what's happening. And that's not what was promised either. So there's been a lot here to digest. The bottom line, it would be really nice if everybody had the same amount of rights. And that's all I got to say. My last thing about Christianity is I know a lot of people who have memorized the Bible. But there's a reverend, I believe his name was Benjamin Creamer, and I think he said it best. There's a difference between being biblical and being Christ-like. And I think we're supposed to aspire to be the second one, being Christ-like. I'm a Christian. I attend an Episcopal church here in town. I've attended Methodist church when I was growing up. I attended non-denominational back in central New York. I've been to every Catholic churches. I don't feel under attack. If anything, I feel some of my fellow Christians are attacking everybody else. And there's no need for it. If you have faith in God, then you shouldn't be afraid of this. You shouldn't be afraid of happy holidays. You shouldn't be afraid of Walmart having, well, probably not Walmart, but other places and businesses recognizing other holidays. So that's all I got. Food for thought as we enter this holiday season and as we enter the new year. And yes, I do have a Christmas tree up, but I don't take affront to someone saying have a nice holiday. I think that's just silly. Have a great day.